Mr. Eggplant presents.
Hey guys, Tyler here. Thanks for checking out this video. And we are just continuing on with the installments of Mythic Plus here on my channel, and I'm happy to almost knock over my my desk here. But I'm happy to bring you guys a +9 Underrot. I don't know that I've actually had an Underrot on the channel yet, so this one was actually pretty well done. Unfortunately, we do time it, so don't get me wrong. But we do have a few mistakes, especially at the very end, where we ended up having just JB, who was actually tanking this run. He was the only one who lived. Just, I know, for at least from my point of view, I was really dumb with how I played that last boss, but we'll get to that. So just to start out with this, we are doing this as of last week. This was done on Monday the 4th of March. So we have Tyrannical, we have Bursting, and we have Skittish. This was actually a really good week to push. Unfortunately, we didn't actually time any 10s. We did about 7 10s, but none were timed, unfortunately. So for group comp, I myself obviously is on my Marksman Hunter. Item level in this is currently 398, so I actually have a bit of gear now finally. It took quite a few weeks. In fact, it took 6 weeks into the new raid before I finally got a decent item level. But hey, that happens. We have JB, normally our healer slash boomkin in a raid. Is actually our tank. He's Guardian Bear tanking it up, and he did quite well, especially with his 350 weapon, so I think he did just fine. We have Going, which is a Ret Paladin. We have Clown, which I believe he is Demonology. And then we have 1-2 Cowpow, which is our Mist Weaver Monk. So this is actually new people that you guys have not seen on the channel before. This is a lot of these guys are a part of our guild, or a part of our raid team, I should say. So on this first couple pulls here, we want to make sure and deal with the Blood Priest correctly. So I will always call out that I will interrupt the Gift of Gahoon first, and then the next person will interrupt the Dark Reconstruction. Or is it Reconstitution? Either way, when it heals to full, we want to make sure to interrupt that. So I know you guys don't hear my calls in these videos, but I will always say, you know, go in, I'll interrupt first, then we'll get number 2, and we do that for every group of priests. It just makes the polls really trivial. Except on teaming weeks, it can be kind of difficult then, but we'll talk about that at a later date. So this is one of the more nasty pulls of the group, so I'll make sure and misdirect as soon as I go in there, and we'll start with the priest. We want to burst down the priest as soon as possible, then move on with the spirit. If the spirit does pick you to start beaming you, you want to make sure and for example, it's on Clown right there. You want to make sure and pop a defensive there. For us, I would just pop my... Actually, he was going to be on me there just for a second. There, it did about 40k a tick. So I would use my number 3 talent down there. I forget what it's called. Survival of the Fittest. There we go. And then I would, once I got to about half health, I would use my Exhilaration to heal. Because with this build right now, I'm running with 2 Nature Salve, which means my Exhilaration is healing me for like 60% of my health. Actually, it's more than that. I think it heals for 100 and 110k, 120k or so. We're getting here to the first boss, which this is Tyrannical week, meaning the bosses hurt a lot more. So we will make sure and we will lust on the first boss. We will lust on the third boss, just because the third boss can be very annoying. Although we found out, this was actually the second run, but we found out we have a really good comp that just completely cheesed that third boss. So maybe we wouldn't have had to do it next time. So on this boss, it's fairly easy, tank and spake. Whenever she casts her copy, her ad, you want to make sure and burst it down as soon as possible while interrupting most of her cast as soon as possible, as you saw I did there. And you want to dodge the Creeping Rot because that just does a wave of damage in front of her, which is extremely high, and especially on Tyrannical weeks, it will probably one-shot you if you don't have a defensive up. So we'll just continue on here, doing some good damage with the group so far. And then the reason you kill the copy is that the copy has the exact same things that she does for abilities, and if you have to have dodge 2 of those, it's very difficult. And you have 2 things of the blood bolts going out. It's just a lot of AoE damage that you can avoid as long as you just burst it down, because it only has 391k health there.
Well, he also has all those.
So we're just finishing off this boss here. Not too bad of a pull. We did lust on this boss, like I said. We ended up getting roughly about 17k or so. That's fairly normal, especially for Mythic Plus. So with the build I'm running, because I'm sure you guys are watching for the Marksman Hunter point of view, I'm still running with my Unerring Visions. I'm running 3 Unerring Vision Azerite traits. I'm running 2 of the in the Rhythm trait, and then I'm running with 1 Focus Fire. And Focus Fire I love now. Even if you just get 1, it is such a difference. So for my last 2 raids, since I've had it, I check how the average focus regen from using rapid fire, and it used to be 10 because that's what the ability states. I'm getting from 10 to 18 already. So like that doesn't sound like a lot, but in this build that is a huge difference. And of course it's also just doing more damage. So we unfortunately had some people pull some ticks, and JB thought we were kidding when we called it out. You'll hear him here in just a second.
Oh,
I thought you were kidding.
so you guys are joking.
Yeah. Yep. So unfortunately, that is the case with a lot of these pulls, or in a lot of our Mythic Pluses, is that not that we're not disciplined or anything like that. Just we have a lot of people that don't really do a lot of Mythic Plus, so they tend to kind of pull extra stuff. And so right there we have 3 stacks, we have 4 stacks, so that is lethal, especially at that point, where we did lose Clown Boy there, and that is something that we need to address as a group, where normally JB, if he was healing, he would be calling out the stacks, which he really doesn't need to be doing since he is the healer. That should just be kind of on the DPS to where you get 3 stacks, and it's unless you're popping big cooldowns or something. Usually you don't want to get more than 3 stacks, because otherwise you're just going to bleed your healer out of mana. So on these pulls, we're going to kind of slow roll these pulls, but we're kind of aggressive as well, especially because JB will say earlier that he used to tank a lot and he used to do a lot of Mythic Plus, so it's kind of coming back to him a little bit. But on these, we always I get first interrupt on the death lashers, the disease lashers, the flowers as I refer to them as. And also, I didn't mention that first few pulls where you have the matron mothers or whatever. I didn't realize it. I didn't think it was always this way. But if she's doing her slash in front, you can actually just bursting shot her away and it stops it completely. Like she doesn't recast it. She doesn't do anything. So that is something that I need to be doing better as a marksman hunter. And I'm hoping that if you guys take anything from this video, if you didn't know that, please be doing that. You can do the same thing on the buttholes, as I call them, the worms that spray. That way they stop casting as well. And to my knowledge, I didn't realize that they were that I could do that. Maybe that's just because I had never tried it that much. But whenever I come into an Underrot, I need to do a better job of that for sure. So there, I just got rid of the bile, so I just knocked him back, and we don't have to worry about focusing him. Because these guys really should be focused more than the worms, than the maggots.
What? I can use mine now, too.
There we go.
Used to not do that.
Yep, as we were talking in the group, as you'll hear in the chat, or in the Discord chat at least, that a lot of people are like, I've never seen that happen before. So maybe there have been some sort of changes over the last couple of weeks that we didn't know about, but also we're not a big group on doing Underrot, because a lot of people don't need anything other than the pulsating veins ring, which is the haste over mastery ring that comes out of here. Which, if you're needing haste, is a great ring for marksman hunter. However, we are moving towards a less haste needing build, I guess, where we're dropping haste. My goal is to get around 10%. I think 10 or 11% would be the sweet spot for me, especially for my playstyle, being able to, barely eke out getting the aim shots before I have to move to dodge an ability, that sort of thing. I've gotten pretty good about that, to where I know my cast, so like, oh, I have 2.5 seconds. Oh, my cast is 2.1 second. I can move at the very last second and not get hit. Things that come to mind would be like volcanic, that sort of thing. More often than not, I can pretty much, you know, make sure I don't get hit by stuff like that while still getting my aim shot off, which, you know, increases your damage. So we're finishing clearing up here, getting to the second boss. We've only got a couple pulls left, but we actually made pretty good time on all of our runs. We didn't time any of the 10s. I have some videos later on. In fact, the closest one we did, we missed a King's Rest by like 3 minutes, which was really frustrating because we just had a couple of sloppy deaths, and that was it. That was the difference between doing an 11 and doing a 9 again. So I'll make sure to interrupt the lasher as soon as it comes off being stunned. It'll pop up there, drop that. And one thing too, the best thing you can do as a hunter is make sure on skittish weeks you need to be using your misdirect on cooldown. I try to do that the best possible, especially because he can have aggro just fine, and the next thing you know, it's gone. So you want to make sure and be rolling those. And as you can see on my bar, I haven't used it. So I do most of the time. There's a few times where I haven't, which I need to do better as a player. But I mean, we're still going to time this no problem. And you know, I think these runs we did this last week were kind of a learning experience for our guild, because a lot of these people still have not done a lot of Mythic Plus. Like, we've had some people that have done like 3 and 4 Mythic Plus, all expansion long. So JB and I, we run, I don't want to say that we run a lot, so don't get me wrong, but we run like 5 a week or so, at various points of the week, mostly on Mondays. That's when our guild, the affectionately known as the Canadian Buddies, whenever we run with them, that is on Mondays, and we were actually doing this prior to them getting on. So we'll start pulling this boss here. If you just stand over here in the corner, it makes this boss so much easier because, of course, he does target people. So as long as you're not, you know, out in the open part of the room until you need to be, it kind of contains all of the ticks and all of the larvae. And we didn't go ahead and lust on this boss because we knew we would need it for the third boss. Unfortunately, I did have kind of a hiccup there with the internet. If you guys have watched my streams at all, which, by the way, I do have those on Tuesdays, we will be working on our heroic progression. We will be skipping normal now and just going right into heroic, where I've had a few, you know, a few bits of internet issues recently. Since my move to Pennsylvania, I've kind of missed my my Missouri internet, but, you know, we will prevail and we'll continue on and make some good content for you guys. So the boss is just sub 50% now. That was pretty good for the first little bit there. And the one beautiful thing about how we're doing this here is that JB, for a lot of those, he'll be like, okay, I've got all these, so we don't have to worry about getting them. So for the Marksman Hunter, I can just sit there and just absolutely destroy him. That's why I'm doing like 6k more than the next player there.
Makes my day. I'm going cat form.
So yeah, JB's really great about calling out what he is going to be doing.
Oh, I don't need it yet, but.
And unfortunately, Going and I both decided to go for these. That was kind of maybe a communication error. I didn't expect him to go, so that was probably my fault. I should have communicated better, saying, hey, you know, I'm going to be going long. You should get the ones that are close by. But it looks like we only ended up getting 2 ticks out of the deal, so it wasn't like a game breaker or a game changer or anything like that. It didn't wipe us, at least. Let's just say that. So make sure when we kill those ticks down, but we don't want to kill them too fast because they do explode and do damage. But here, you'll hear a call out here in just a second to just stay on boss, because he will be running to the middle of the room again. Actually, he may not on this one, because we did a couple of pulls. I don't remember which recording this one is. It doesn't look like it. So he starts doing his tantrum. But if that's the case, if you're like sub 800,000 health on him or whatever, just kill him. Like, there's no reason to go and do the mechanics because they just disappear. So on this pull, We want to make sure and misdirect to our tank, and then I want to be on the death speaker here. As you can see, that's my target because I want to make sure and interrupt raise dead. We did one of these earlier at a +7, and we let him raise dead, and because I just wasn't doing my job as the lead interrupter, which happens. But that's just something like that. Little things can make a big difference on these keys. And unfortunately, he did die there. The stuff did hit really, really hard. But we have a group that's, well, the nice thing is that I'm almost always going to have the second highest threat. In fact, I do, because I'm doing 27k there when the next person is doing 16. To where I can just immediately disengage back and just kind of wait it out until the tank gets B-rezzed. That's the one nice thing about being a hunter, especially on skittish weeks. I mean, I'm a hunter every week, but you know what I mean. So as soon as this stun goes through, I will go ahead and interrupt this. Like I said, I'm always the lead interrupt. I always call first because I usually, other than there's like a boomkin in the group, I have the longest interrupt cooldown. We'll pull this pack here. Well, actually, there's 3 packs we'll pull. We'll pull these guys, we'll pull the snake, and then we'll pull the 2 casters in front of the boss. So this was, like I said, this was our second run, and so we don't normally need to pull that extra snake. However, we face pulled it the first time, but we hit % exactly correct. So we're like, you know what, we'll just pull it. We won't have to worry about it. So as you've been seeing this entire dungeon, I will just roll my true shot up whenever it's off cooldown. The only time I won't use it is if we're just about ready to get to a boss, because our burst is really, really important. Like, I can burst a lot of damage, especially on tyrannical bosses where boss damage is key. That would be something that I would recommend. That's just kind of knowing your dungeons too, knowing which ones, where you can get away with a true shot and where you can't. See, like, for example, on this stuff, I don't really feel like we have to have one. We don't need a true shot. We don't have to burst these guys down super fast. Now, maybe if, unfortunately, that did not get interrupted. So you got a few stacks of the curse there. But, like, it's not a big deal. And, in fact, what I should be doing right here, and I don't think I am, I should be whittling down I should be just spamming my arcane shot to whittle down that cooldown so I have it on pull. That's something that I can't stress enough, especially if you're running with the Unerring Visions, especially if you're running with 3, because you're pretty much going all in on Unerring Visions. That you want to not pull aggro off the tank. That was bad on me. Where you want to make sure and have it up at the very beginning to coincide with all your other CDs. So we did lust on this.
The melee should
I call out before we start this as they get hit by stuff. I don't normally get hit like that.
Yeah.
Oh, twice in one run. That is terrible. Should just end this recording now. Gosh. But we do the first one as normal. As you can see there, we want to walk through every once in a while and pick off stragglers. Just hit 1 or 2. It makes life a lot easier for when they explode. But if you're running with a monk, you can just get rid of all the stacks. It's amazing. We had no idea until we did it. It's like he would just immediately cleanse all the stacks. Unfortunately, JB does die here, but I was able to pull aggro and be able to hold aggro, which is the nice thing about being a bursty marksman hunter. So I went ahead. What I would normally have done is I would have just cleared all these. So I would have... What you do is you pop your cheetah and you pop your turtle, much like you would do with the magma traps or lava traps on Jadefire Masters in BOD. But then I would just sit there and I would just run through them, and you can take out almost all of them. So I took out a couple there. He's gonna call me to move, but I'm way ahead of him there.
Yeah, bubble and clear.
There we go. Make sure and move that.
Oh, look at that.
So look at that. We cleared it perfectly to where we had nothing, because he just cleared them all himself. We'll just make sure and dodge all of the oatmeal.
What happened there? Did I take too many stacks or?
So we had a great comp for this because we have a Ret Paladin that can do it. That he can clear himself. Because you would just bubble yourself and steed, and you can go and you can get through all of them. As long as no one's standing next to you, they don't get stacks. You have a Marksman Hunter who can use Cheetah and Turtle, get right through all of them. I can't believe I got hit by that. This is just a poor performance by me. I'm worried too much about doing damage, I suppose. But then we also have a monk. Let's say we decide, hey, we're not going to do any of it because they don't have initial damage. They take a second before, like, so you'll get, let's just say you don't do any of it, right? You get 10 stacks. So it doesn't go hit, stack, bam, hit you, where it goes, you have 10 stacks, and then it ticks for a second, then it does an absolutely amazing amount of damage. So if he's fast on it, and he can just cleanse all the stacks, boom, you don't have to worry about it. Trivial boss. So we're making great progress. I wish we could have two-chested this. This was actually our goal. We were trying to two-chest 9s all day long, and we didn't. It didn't end up happening. We missed one of them by like 8 seconds. It was so frustrating. But we're going to pull this worm here, and then we're going to pull the Defiler. That way we hit the exact percent. It's like 100. It's like 100.1 or 100.2%, which is really good. A lot of micromanaging your pulls and knowing that you're not wasting time by pulling stuff you don't need to, but also, you know, getting through the dungeon in a timely manner. So I'm going to make sure and interrupt that curse. Mine was on CD. I try to interrupt as much as possible, but, you know, that doesn't always happen with our group. So we'll sneak around here.
Yo.
As it sounds like we've got a bunch of people that are jumping into our Discord as we were running this. I completely forgot about that. Like, it tends for our guild, where we don't have anybody get on the weekends at all, which I think is kind of odd. I think it would be the opposite. You know, people would get on the weekend, but that isn't the case. So Mondays are when everybody wants to come on and do Mythic Plus and all that fun stuff.
Beware.
So I want to make sure and stand over here so you don't want to stand in front of him because you get hit by the gaze. Don't get hit by the gaze. It's never fun. And then you get feared, and that fear will pull almost always. Funny thing was, it was one of the videos that I thought I was recording our +10 King's Rest that I guess I messed up on the pull or on the recording, to where, so we're on the last boss, right? And so when he's on the mount, he does the roar. Well, it happened. I had not got hit by anything. And he roars, and my character immediately runs right for a tornado. He was just like, it was like a beeline straight there. I know that's an oxymoron that doesn't make sense, but you know what I mean.
There we go.
So we did get one stack on us here. We want to make sure and not get another. And then you can also use your healer if they're a monk, where they can paralyze that, so it just stops the cast. He immediately starts it again, but it acts as a nice interrupt. We're just over 9 minutes right now. We just have these 3 pulls left, because this grotesque horror and then the 2 corruptors will get us the percent we need, because the corruptors are, I think, 2.4% apiece. So we're at 95% right now, or like 95.4 or something like that. I guess it wouldn't be 0.5, because it would round it up. I guess no, it wouldn't round it up. They don't actually round up in the game. So you could be at like 95.9 and it would still say 95. So we'll just burst down these corruptors. Yeah, like I said, I was kind of sad that we didn't make some more progress in Mythic Plus. I did manage to get my Raider IO up. That was kind of why we were doing the Underrot, because I'd only done a 6 prior to this on time. That was like first or second week. It's a lot. Like I said, a lot of people don't like doing this because, one, it's a little bit harder most of the time. The timer's kind of unforgiving, and then the fact that a lot of people don't need gear from it. Like, if it dropped Azerite, yeah, people would need gear, but unfortunately it doesn't, therefore we kind of have a problem there. So we'll get down here to the last boss, which on this boss would be, I can pretty much be on the boss for the first, you know, say half of the fight, and then the rest of the time I'm on spore duty or oatmeal duty. And unfortunately, that is what does me in. Just letting you guys know, unfortunately. I do cut it, so you don't have to just sit there and watch my dead corpse for a while. But on this fight, we want to make sure, and whenever the circle goes underneath us, you want to kind of clear out the floor, as well as it clears off your stacks, which I did get at first. And we do have 3 stacks on me, so I want to make sure and get rid of that. But we want to burst as much into the abomination as possible. And then once all the spores start coming out, that's where I'm just on spore duty, to where this would be one of those fights where I think let's see, what is it called? Barrage would be really good. I couldn't see myself using it the entire dungeon though. But if you had barrage on this, you could just let them all pool up and then just go freaking crazy. Because each of those spores only have 3 health. And that's the one thing that I struggle with as a marksman hunter, just because to use my multi-shot, it takes 15. And you can only do that so much. So you have to be very diligent with what your, your focus. So what I should have been doing is like going crazy on the spores, because you want to, as soon as they explode, they drop the crap on the ground, and is what kills me, because I have one sneak up on me behind, and I didn't realize it. And, that happens, unfortunately. So I did manage to get rid of my stacks there just barely. You want to make sure and not get hit by these spores, and you want to make sure and kill them in a place where there's already spores. That way you're not, wasting space. I won't lie, I kind of thought that was on me there. I remember thinking, I was like, why is that moving? But it happened to be Clown was just right on top of me there as well. So you want, if you're the tank, or just, the melee, the group in general, you want to make sure and just run him around the room. Unfortunately, I got myself caught right here to where I'm not really where I want to be.
Yeah, fucking spore.
So I want to make sure and I can just get off the boss and get to a spot where I can see where all these spores are. Because when the spores die, they do explode and do damage as well. So that's something that you don't want to be exploding on people. I've got 4 stacks, so I want to make sure and drop those off here. This guy has a lot of health because obviously he absorbs everything, but yeah, took a little bit of damage. I should have just ran right off there, and I didn't. I don't really know why. In this heat of the moment, I guess I just lost myself there a bit.
One more and we're good.
But he just absorbs all his damage, but the damage you do to him does fill up his bar, or his rage bar, his focus bar, his mana bar, whatever you want to call it. And then that would, once that fills up, he brings out the 2 little dudes. And luckily for us, the NPC in here does help kill it. Like, I just took that to the face, and that was not acceptable at all. That should have not have been something that happened. So I'm just working on spores right now, and we did just lose going.
Well done.
So that's just something where the fight kind of took a little bit too long, especially considering we have a DPS down there doing like next to no damage. We have a DPS doing 354k for this entire run thus far. So that's pretty much why we're getting overrun at this point. That's something that probably need to be addressed in a later group. So you can see the spore coming up behind me, and I'm not paying any attention, and I take it to the face, and that's it. So it is going to cut here in just a second. So JB was a freaking boss, and he just runs around the circle the entire time. And luckily for us, like I said, the ad that's a part of the fight does, I should say the keeper, the Titan Keeper. He does actually kill all the little dudes, the visages, as they go around. So we did manage to push this key. We got it to a 10, as you can hear JB calling out the big carried. And this was just a lot of fun. I really enjoyed doing this with the guild. That's not something we normally get to do. Kind of a poor run, if I'm being honest. I only did like 14.8k for the entire dungeon. Didn't get an upgrade either, unfortunately, because I'm running with a better one with a socket currently. But, that happens sometimes. So I appreciate you guys watching. I hope you guys enjoy this. I hope you guys are having fun with Mythic Plus in Season 2. Until my next live stream or video, I'll see you guys later.